how grew the idea to do a Tarantino?
Well, I was having dinner with Amber and Marie, and we were talking about different genres that might be interesting for the festival this year. And Tarantino came up because it's so, I don't know, over the top and ridiculous. So it's fun to play with. You know, it's not a subtle genre, right? And so we just all kind of thought that idea would be really fun. And then when Marie sent us the official invitation for the festival, she mentioned that she would like us to try and go for the Tarantino idea we had over dinner. So.
Okay, and then what did you do then?
Well, the first thing I did was rewatch some Tarantino movies and then call some friends that I knew that had done some Tarantino work. So I talked to my buddy Dave Morris, who does Improv in Victoria, and he'd been doing a Tarantino project. So I got some ideas from him, and then I talked to. Just a few different people I knew that had done that kind of stuff. And I started making a whole bunch of notes. And then we just had a little email chain where we kicked around ideas. And then, of course, the real work started once we got here and we got into the rehearsal hall and we started workshopping kind of different improv techniques for Tarantino stuff.
Which techniques?
Things like talking about something horrifying while you're doing something normal, or talking about something really normal while you're doing something horrifying. So if you're like picking up body parts, you say like, oh, and it's my kid's birthday today. Yeah, I think I'm going to get him a bike because, you know, he wants a new bike. All the time you're picking up, you know, human body parts. Or the opposite, you know, you're walking a cute little dog and you're talking about how you strangled someone to death the night before. So that's one technique we used. We also talked about storytelling, you know, introducing a character that's not present by telling a big story about them, or telling a personal story. We played a lot around with, you know, the idea of death and different ways to die. So we did, and of course we did a swearing workshop. We did a whole chunk of time just on how to swear, how to have fun with swearing, because some of the people out there tonight, that's not necessarily the way they would normally talk. But in the world of Tarantino, everyone has to be ready to talk like a sailor. So.
Okay, and was it difficult for the players?
You know, the funny thing is, you know, for example, Jill Ferris was one of the members of the company who did the show, and she is the sweetest, kindest, most gentle lady I've ever known. And as soon as we gave her permission to swear, the stuff that came out of her mouth was just amazing. So actually it wasn't the challenge I thought it would be. In fact, some of the people that I thought wouldn't be as ready to jump into Tarantino style were the most Tarantino, like Jill Ferris.
Okay. And what is the most difficult thing about Tarantino, you would say, to improvise?
Probably, you know, complicated storylines that all connect in a way that suddenly you have this big, aha, that's how it all makes sense. That's probably the hardest thing, because there's no real way to practice that. It either happens or it doesn't.
And this show, how was that?
I'd say this show had a pretty loose narrative. I wouldn't say that we had exactly the like, oh, and that piece came from that. No, not so much, but we did have a lot of death. And we had some kung fu and some 60s music that people danced to, so, you know.
Okay, and why did you do this with a narrator?
I just thought it would be fun so that we could focus on the style instead of on the narrative. So the director can push things in the direction that they want, and people can just focus on playing characters and doing everything in a Tarantino style without worrying about the narrative structure. Because it's complicated, right? He does flashbacks and he does jumps around and all this stuff. And I didn't want them to worry about that because we only had 2 days of workshops.
Okay, that's a typical Tarantino that is the other way that you expect. It's
right.
What he wants.
Right, yeah.
Okay, what's the most fun you had? What was the point you had the most fun?
Tonight?
Yeah,
or
tonight
in the whole process.
In the whole process.
Well, but with the first thing I noticed when I looked at the different parts of Tarantino was the realization that he had 2 subgenres inside of Tarantino. One is like modern crime, right? So this is, drugs, professional criminals, hitmen, interconnecting storylines. This is your Reservoir Dogs, your Pulp Fiction, your True Romance. And then he has another subgenre, which is like, I like to call revenge porn, which is basically somebody who has a great reason to seek revenge, so we celebrate it when they brutally murder a lot of people. This is your Inglourious Basterds, Django Unchained, Kill Bill, etc. And for me, that realization made me feel like I was kind of getting it. You know what I mean? That was my first moment where I was like, I had an original idea about Tarantino. I can't believe it. I can't believe I figured one thing out. So that was the first moment where I felt like, okay, I can do this. We can figure this out. And so that was fun for me.
Okay, and tonight?
Tonight I like swearing at the audience. It's always fun.
Tarantino is somehow how we don't are allowed to be, but sometimes want.
Yeah, I guess Tarantino is kind of how we would like to be, but we can't be. And also, of course, he steals from everyone, but he doesn't care. And so I try to take that energy and put it into my character as director tonight.
And the ideas with the blood and so, what was that?
Yeah, that was another idea from Dave Morris, my friend in Canada, who said, because I said, Dave, he has so much blood in his movies. How are we supposed to do that without destroying the theater? And he said he used red confetti and it looked good, so I thought I'd try it. But of course, we didn't get it until right before the show. So I'm like, everyone, don't forget, red confetti, red confetti.
Okay.
And I like the idea of we were going to use prop guns, but in Berlin it's hard to get prop guns, and so then we decided to go with bananas as a nod to Banksy. I don't know if you remember that famous Banksy. It's a graffiti of Pulp Fiction, but Samuel L. Jackson has the other. John Travolta has bananas instead of guns. It's a famous street art in London. Okay. And so I decided, let's go with bananas because a few reasons. Banksy piece, also the Gorillaz Festival. But then, the nice thing that we realized was it took away some of the brutality of the violence and it made it a little more fun, which is, the point. We're not here to be disgusting. We're here to have a fun time, so...